We're going to attempt to adjust the centering of this case knife. As you can see, this clip point blade on the left is really far over that way. I'm going to try and center it just a little bit using a dangerous method. I had heard that the steel down here at the base is a little bit softer than the blade. I know when I heat treat knives and quench them in oil, I'll hold them by the end when I dip them. And if I don't dip it down all the way, that end or the handle part of the knife won't be quite as hard as the blade. A lot of times this is a desirable effect, to have the handle just a little bit softer. Axes are done this way too, where the bit is the hardest part. And when you go back towards the eye, where the axe handle is fastened, they're a little bit softer. And the hammer pole on the other end is also pretty soft steel. That's why you see a lot of old axes mushroomed over on the hammer pole. So what I'm going to do is take a pair of these Knipex pliers wrench. These have smooth jaws. You don't want anything that'll mess up or mark your steel. So these smooth jaws are essential. What I'm going to do is the blade needs to go that way. So keep in mind the blade needs to go that way. So as I flip it over, it needs to bend this way. We're going to put the pliers all the way down by the base. And apply some force. I'm actually applying quite a bit of force there. Okay, that didn't too much, so let's put a little bit more force on it. Try it one more time. That last time did it. That blade now centers up really well. Now one thing it did do is loosen the pivot just slightly, so I'm going to have to repeen this part right here. Now I should have a ball peen hammer, which I don't have with me at work here, but the face of this hammer is slightly rounded, so I think I'll be able to get away with this. I'm going to lay the knife on the tape here, and right here you can see where the bolster pulled away from the pin a little. I'm going to give a few taps here. And then we'll see what we... That's after tapping on a few times. The blade is now tight again. And as you can see, that blade is centered nicely now. Before it was just about rubbing the frame. This side of the bolster didn't take any damage, because we had the piece of tape here protecting this side. But this side here does have a few marks, a few little scrapes on it, and I can feel some edges of the pin where it's been peened over. So next will be sanding and polishing the bolster on this side. I have 4 different sandpapers ready here: 240, 320, 600, and 1500 grit. This side of the knife, the bolster stayed pretty good. But on this side we have a little bit of marking. There you can see it, and a few scratches from the hammer hits. So we're going to attempt to get rid of that. I don't want to use the coarser papers unless I have to. I'm going to start with some of the 600 and see what it does. Now I'm going to sand in one direction only. I don't want to put scratches both ways. I only want to put scratches one way. And I'm going to stay clear of the bone. Now you'll be able to see the difference in the color, where the areas where I've hit will now have a satin finish. The shiny areas are still where it needs to be sanded down at. I'm going to drop to the 320. There's no sense in wasting time at too high of a grit when you need a lower grit to get the job done. If this doesn't do it pretty quick, I'll go to the 240. I think I will switch to the 240. You'll be able to hear the difference in this. You can tell that this is more aggressive. We want to go to everything is that brushed color. We're going to remove all the gloss. We want everything to be uniform. Uniform satin finish. So there's still a little bit more to go around the edges of the pins there. You can see it right there in that shot. I can apply more pressure when I set the knife down, but I'm probably also shaking the camera quite a bit. So, sorry that can't be helped. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now we'll go back to the 320 grit. What's important with each grit is to remove all the scratch lines that were left by the previous grit. If you don't remove all the scratch lines made by the previous grit, you'll be forever trying to get it up with a grit that's too high. Same thing when you're sharpening knives and you're moving up on stones too fast. Think of it the same way. Okay, time for the 600 grit. with the 600 grit, we're starting to get some of our shine back. You can see just a little tiny bit right there that could be hit more. We'll finish with the 1500 grit. That's starting to look pretty good. I'm going to get a strop and we'll see what difference that makes. Here's a scrap piece of leather and I'm going to put some yellow compound on it. This would be very similar to Bark River's green compound. See the black? That's the metal coming off. There we go. Could use a little bit more with the strap, but you keep going. You can see it really doesn't look any different than the bolster on the other side. Could follow this up with a little bit of case paste. To make it look good as new. There we go. I hope this helps some of you that have case knives that need work, whether you have loose blades or bent blades, and you just need to tighten up the pivots and straighten the knives out a little bit. We'll see you on the next one.